Mental health. Let's talk. What is it? How knowledgeable are you about what the effects and causes and consequences of mental health are? Today we're here at Dr. Uzo's office. We're going to be talking to him. We're going to find out his view. And again, you know how very unaware we are about the challenges and the issues that mental health poses. All right, then come along with us. And I kind of like how we went from speaking about mental health, and especially as regards to the situation in the country now, and as it relates particularly to women, you know. But I remember you said yes, it affects both men and women, you know. And so what I found very intriguing and powerful, you know, was how you said that once women get to know their role and their right, they start to walk in it more, and it kind of endorses them and empowers them at the same time. Then we went from there to talk about how everyone, you know, in the family, okay, yes, we did say the community, the country starts from the smallest unit, which is the family. Okay, and then you said how interesting that from time immemorial, we have been talking to and addressing the women, the female, the young girls, even from when they're born. We tell them how to sit and cross their legs, and how to speak, and how to do this and how not to do it, but nobody is addressing the men. Okay, so we're going to, so that was a conversation you and I had, and I thought from the top of my mind, this is mind-blowing, and I would like for the opportunity to, you know, go through that again, you know, and have you say all of those beautiful things that you said to empower someone out there.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You know, when we are growing up, when you talk about mental health, we remember that young man wearing dada, only boxers, strolling through the village to the market, talking to himself. But if you look around you now, you know, you find out that a good number of young people who are degree holders, artisans, now wear dada.
That's a trend, yes.
Yes, and then you look at their dress, even the person that we felt was a big man yesterday, turned out to be better dressed than these guys now. You know, so the thing has turned almost 360 degrees. Yes. Right. So like I mentioned yesterday, we're dealing with evolution. So what transpired yesterday may not, aside serving as a source of reference,
absolutely, but not
add value.
So what we're discussing today,
yes,
I like that.
Present challenge that we are facing today. Now, I recall I mentioned yesterday that I listened to a lot of women speak about women, you know, the kind of frustration they go through life, frustration from husbands, frustration from communities.
Yes, everywhere.
Yes. So, and this kind of affects the level of frustration they go through on a daily basis. The fact that all these frustrations are bottled inside, because they're not even allowed by some society to express them, what they're going through and all that, and make it different. Yeah, so quick results to emotional breakdown, logical breakdown, and in some cases, outright madness. Yes, and if madness occur, you find out that the husband may not be available to actually take care of this woman. The woman will now be left at the village mental home, which is manned by a villager who have no background in medical or psychiatry. So these things happen.
Most likely, sorry to cut in there, most likely another frustrated woman.
Yes, you know, but the woman must share at least 70% of this blame. That was my stand yesterday, and I still maintain it. Considering that in African society, it's actually the woman that is responsible for raising the kids. To the men, it's all about money and muscles. And you should take note of this, because I've taken the pains to struggle to study some of these things, especially amongst men living in metropolitan setup in Nigeria here. You find out that when a man marries a woman, and they begin to bear children. The man comes home like a gorilla. He's a big man, he has money. Madam should never open, if he dresses up to go to work in the morning and no breakfast, I tell you, that woman will receive some slap. Hey, madam, come on, bye. I'm marrying you with my money, so you must give. At that point, the woman may seem very vulnerable. But do you realize that 23 years down the line, that same woman that was vulnerable 23 years ago will now become more powerful? Because by then, Oga would have served his, finished training the children, and he's now retired. And when the children now come home, because of the bonds they have built with their mom over the time, so it's the mom
they all run to.
Yes, they run to the mother. Yes, there's a situation. Children came home to spend holidays with their parents. On their way back to the city, they gave the woman 150,000 naira, their mother, and then as they turned to go and give their father 50,000, the mother called them back and asked them, how much is that? They say, mommy, 50,000. For who? For daddy. Say, why should you give your daddy 50,000? What will he be doing with it? Wow. Give him 5,000 and bring 45, let him keep. And they listened. So when they now took the 5,000 to the man, unknowingly to them, he overheard. Wow. So he said, my children overheard their mom. Then returned the 5,000 to her, let her keep everything. I'm okay. I bless you for you could see the voice with which she now addressed the issue is different from the voice of yesterday. So the women are actually very powerful in the setup, right? And then let us not also overlook one fact that when women raise this mental health issue, I know a lot of women will come after me for this. Yes.
That's the whole idea. That's what we're talking.
It could be a form of emotional blackmail. They know they have the power. A lot of girls know they have power.
How do you mean? That's what you need to break down for those that know. Fine, but before you even go into this question, how do you mean they have the power? What are the factors that influence that change, that behavior from the 23 years before to the later part?
Okay, in that instance, that one is very straightforward.
Okay.
Both the children and this woman 23 years ago were at the mercy of father who was a superman. He had the money, he was everything. Lord. The author lording it over all of them. Right. So within that period, the woman brought the children tighter to her and they formed that bond. So between the woman and her husband, the bond that you see between the woman and her children do not exist between the husband and the children. Yes. In actual fact, it may seem that it's the husband that brought up these children. But to tell you the truth, the only role he played there was that of a financer. It's the woman that brought these children up. That's why she was able to bond with them. Are you following?
I'm following.
Yes. So at what point is that woman vulnerable to claim mental illness? That's the question, right? Okay, that's one point. Now, if you talk about vulnerability of women, you break it down. What we are talking about here it has to do with authority over territory. Now, if you look at economic aspect, it's a little different. Now, you find that a lot of women depend on their husbands for the economic aspect of living. And if the man should suddenly die, the woman will be left at the mercy of her kinsmen or the man's kinsmen.
Yes.
And where situations where the late man's kinsmen will line up and begin to seize properties and force the woman out of leaving the woman and her children,
vulnerable.
Yes. And that is because in most African setup, people do not do the proper thing when it comes to title.
The proper things.
Yes, they don't do the proper thing.
What are they supposed to do, sir?
Yes, well, number one, before you marry a girl, you may have started making money and acquiring property. Okay. There are documents you filled at that point that you probably use their mom or brother or sister as your kinsmen or next of kin, yes. But the moment you marry and begin to have children, you should alter that and make your wife your next of kin. But people are so reluctant to do that. Are you following? Yes. Although in some extreme cases, like in my experience as an insurance manager, there was this situation where it's a bilateral organization that prepared a group life scheme for their employees.
Okay.